Welcome to Inside the Moms Club, where being a mom is the coolest place to be. Here in the Moms Club, we believe that what embarrasses you now will make a great story later. And let's face it, you don't laugh sometimes, you're gonna cry. Join us in having a good laugh together. I'm Monica Samuels. You are now inside the Moms Club, your private destination for all things mom. Hi, moms. I'm Monica Samuels, and I'm here with my co-host, Raha Dixon.
Hi.
Good morning, Raha. How are you this morning?
I'm really good.
We've been having a great time out here in LA. I do want to throw this out to you, though, before we get on to our show.
What are you going to do?
So I have a question.
Okay.
Did your son ever have any imaginary friends?
Oh, he didn't, but I did.
Okay.
I totally did.
Huh.
I had an imaginary version of me, and it was my evil twin.
Oh.
And my grandma used to say, "Did you do that?" And I would say, "No, that was Roxanne."
Okay, well, then you just answered my question, because my niece is having a problem.
Oh.
Not a problem, but her daughter has an imaginary friend named Whip.
Okay.
And Whip is a bad dude. Whip gets in all kinds of trouble.
Yeah.
Like, Whip is the one that wouldn't put his mask on. Whip is the one who jumped off the counter. Whip is the one that picked the lock and got into her husband's office while he was in the middle of an important Zoom call.
Oh.
Whip is, and Whip is a very real thing, because I was visiting them, and while we were driving down the road, and Lucy told me this actually is the neighborhood, Aunt Monica, where Whip's mother grew up.
Oh my
So
God.
Whip has a whole backstory.
Whip has a whole thing.
Yeah. But Whip
Yeah.
is a bad influence. So my question is, if your child's imaginary friend is a bad influence, what should you do? But you actually, you've turned out great.
See?
And you had a bad imaginary friend. So
I really did. I made her up
Okay.
because I didn't want to get in trouble. And my sweet grandmother, I miss her so much. She just went with it. She said, "Well, you tell her that's not very nice. And did you know that this is what it does to people? And I'm so glad that it wasn't you. And I know you're bigger than that, and you're better. Of course it wasn't you." And I just felt like, oh gosh, thank God I didn't, like, whoo.
So
And it kind of allowed me to correct myself. And
So that's
in my
what we
case, I
need
did.
to do. We need to tell Lucy just need to be a better influence on Whip.
Yes,
Whip needs to-
absolutely. Absolutely.
She needs to set a good example for Whip. So okay, well, I will share that.
Yeah.
I was just curious. Well, I have another question. So
Okay.
what do you think of my bright orange shirt?
I love it so much. I walked in here and I sat down. I looked in the thing. I was like, "Oh my God, we're wearing green and orange. We look like we're from some kind of correctional institution."
Well, yeah, we obviously didn't coordinate
But
that.
it's a beautiful shirt that she's
Thank
wearing,
you.
and it's so bright, and it's like this beautiful fabric. And I got
Well, you
styled
look-
by my husband today, and I love him for that, because
Yeah.
I've been through some medical things, and so my body's not the same as it was, a year and a half ago. And I've been complaining a lot, and he said, "Let me style you." And then he put
You
on
look
this
great.
jumpsuit, and I was like, "Oh, I can do this. This is super comfortable."
Uh-huh.
And I'm wearing some heels, and
Yeah.
he said, "See, just let me style you sometime." And I was like, "I will do that," because my first reaction was, "Oh, okay, sure." And then he really came through, so
Yeah.
give them a chance.
You look great. Well,
Thank
as
you.
my friends all know, I tend to wear the same color, blue, various shades of blue. So I'm trying to venture out. So I thought, I'm going to go out in a big way. I'm going to try
great.
bright orange. But
You did great.
thank you.
Yeah.
Now, I hope I can keep this up. Years ago, when I was practicing law, I would either wear blue or red. And finally someone in the firm came up
Really?
to me and they said, "You are very patriotic." And I didn't realize what they were saying, but I didn't realize I was doing that.
Oh, is that a thing? Are you actually patriotic? I wonder.
By
if-
what you wear?
Yeah, no, I mean,
Oh.
look, are you? Because
Am I?
Maybe subconsciously you're picking those colors. I don't know.
Maybe. Well, I am patriotic. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
think, But I didn't do it on purpose to do that.
It's
so.
interesting because sometimes we do things and we don't think about it, but it's from a subconscious place where we actually believe in something. So I wonder if
Yeah.
there's anything behind that
Well,
or
I
nothing.
think
I don't know.
clothes say a lot about who we are
Yeah, they sure do.
and how we feel. And that is why we are so thrilled today
Oh, yes,
to
we
have
are.
as our guest a woman who can talk to us all about that. She has been working as a stylist with hundreds of clients over the past 12 years.
Wow.
And she hosts Los Angeles's KTLA's How to Be Your Own Personal Stylist. She has had work that has been featured in Hallmark's Home and Family Show, and she was a celebrity stylist on the BBC's Inside Beverly Hills. She has written a book that will come out in June called A Common Thread, A Fashion for the Soul Book. And we are so thrilled today to have Jen Principe with us. Hi, Jen. Welcome to the Moms Club.
Hi, Jen.
Hi, everybody. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for coming. So, what we were just discussing, so tell us a little bit how clothes speak to who you are. I mean, share it with us.
I was listening to you, and first of all, blue, by the way, is one of the number one colors that Fortune 500 companies use in their logos, because blue represents stability and strength, and that's that's why they say it's the power suit, and most people tend to wear blue. But colors radiate at their own frequency, so wearing orange, as you can see, everyone was like, oh, you look great today. So clothes, colors, things that you put on your body can absolutely shift your emotional temperature and your mood, even the way you perform tasks. They've done studies on this. There's a study that was done, it's called Enclothed Cognition, and it's the systemic influence that clothes have on the wearer's psychological processes, meaning what our clothes are saying to us, not about us. So colors can play a huge role, and it's one tool to absolutely shift your vibration and your energy.
This is so interesting. So what is your dress saying to you today?
Mine?
Yeah.
Well, I love this little poof sleeve. I tend to dress a little bit more on the, I hate to use the word feminine side, but I tend to dress.
It's so beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Well, I cross a lot of different genres when it comes to clothing, but I do tend to wear things that are a little bit more frilly and feminine. It makes me feel like it brings out my feminine divine. So this is just very girly and pretty, and pink is my favorite color, which is on the color of my book. It represents playfulness and light, and metaphorically, I want to bring as much light into every situation that I can. So I tend to wear a lot of pinks and bright colors.
So share with us your story. How did you decide to become a stylist? What was your journey to your role today?
Yeah. So I grew up in a very dysfunctional upbringing. My grandfather was the chief Orthodox rabbi of Los Angeles from 1935 to 1973. So, I mean, I grew up in like black hat, very, very ultra Orthodox. And my father, when my mother left when I was 6 months old, my father brought in a housekeeper to take care of us. And he formed a relationship with her that lasted 19 years. And although she was considered my surrogate growing up, she realized that because of my father's background and not having her be a part of the religion, he ended up not committing to her, and she found solutions, and those were pills and alcohol. So I grew up in a lot of dysfunction. So I always knew growing up that when I grew up, I would want to stay home and be a stay-at-home mom. But I was a worker bee. And so, I worked before I had kids. And then when I had kids, I decided I was going to give up that career, which is totally different than what I was in. Throughout my life, I think I've had 25 jobs. Oh, wow. Not kidding. Oh, wow. 25, trying to find like, who am I? And, why am I here? And what can I contribute? And, it's like, what's that saying? It's a jack of all trades, mastery of none. Well, I'm jack of all trades, mastery of one. And that took me a really long time to figure out. And so when my kids were getting into high school, actually late junior high school, I was home. Now I've always had an eye for style. And I used to get calls from my friends all the time, hey, can you help me? Can you come shopping? Can you pick this out? Or I would shop in stores, and then people would go to the stores and say, I saw this girl, her name's Jen Principe, and she was wearing this. So everyone kind of knew I just had like an eye for fashion. And then one day my husband was out of town, and I was playing in my closet about 12 years ago. And I started just weeding through my wardrobe. And as I was doing that, I started putting together looks that I thought would look good together. And I thought, hey, I'm going to take a picture of this, because when I'm stressed out, I don't know about you guys, but when we're under pressure, it's like, oh my God, what do I wear? And, my husband's always on time. And I thought, I'll just take a picture of this and make myself like a little album. And this is really before even like iPhone lookbooks. And I printed them out. My husband's a photographer on the side, and I printed them out, and I made myself like a little book to put in my closet. My husband called and he said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I said, I think I just thought of like a new business. There's so many people out there that have so much in their wardrobe and they don't know how to wear it. What if I go into their wardrobe and kind of show them what to do? And he's like, "Yeah, that's brilliant, Jen." So I called up a couple girlfriends of mine who have a really great wardrobe, but they really struggle. They're like, "What do I wear with what?" So I told them my idea, and I said, "Hey, can I just come and work in your wardrobe and see if I can, put together looks for you and use them to help promote this business I think I want to do?" And they were like, "Absolutely." So I went there and I called some stores and I said, "Could I come by and borrow clothes from you? Because this is my idea."
How long ago was this, Jen? The idea of borrowing?
It was like 12 years ago.
Yeah. So back then, borrowing clothes for a layperson was not a thing everybody did. Now all the stylists are doing it.
It's called a pull, actually.
That's
which
right.
I didn't even know.
It's a pull.
And they said, "Yeah, go ahead." And so I pulled merchandise, and my girlfriends came home as I was laying things out, and they were like, "Oh my God, that looks amazing." And they tried it on. And I'd say about 70% of what I brought, they bought.
That's
and from
amazing.
then on, I just did a launch. And from then on, I just got super busy. And that's how my career kind of started.
That's very forward thinking of you. It's amazing. It's like right place, right time, destiny, all the stars aligned. You mentioned that when you were growing up, it was like black hat, very strict upbringing. Yeah. When did you allow yourself, or when were you allowed to venture into the world of color and fashion, or was that always allowed? I don't know.
It was always allowed. So my parents, my father, I should say my father is more secular, and my grandparents, who I spent a lot of time with, or I should say my grandmother, because my grandfather passed away when I was 3, they were black hats. So I spent most of the weekends with them. And when I did, it was mostly dresses. I really wasn't allowed to wear black for a long time. For some reason, I don't know, my father had a thing about wearing black. It was a mature color. But I always, my grandmother donated her time on the weekend. So every Sunday we would go to the Jewish Federation, and she would work there and bargain and, help just donate her time. And so I would rummage through a lot of the vintage things and sort of fall in love and play dress up and imagine. So that's probably where I fell in love with, all things vintage from when I was a little girl.
It's really in your DNA.
Taught me to be of service too. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I said, sorry to cut you off. It's really in your DNA.
It's in my DNA.
It really is. That's so interesting.
Yeah, it's all in my DNA, actually. I mean, my book in itself is, it's a fashion book, but I call it a fashion for the soul book. And the reason I call it a fashion for the soul book, there it is.
Yeah.
And the reason I call it a fashion for the soul book is because the book is filled with inspirational stories that have shaped my life, all true, that all have a common thread of either faith or fashion. And they're stories about love and loss and resilience and courage and humility that have all sort of shaped these, shaped who I really am today. And then I call it a fashion book because on top of that, I have a QR code that leads the reader to how to build the wardrobe from the ground up, because it's always been a passion of mine to be able to provide that service for people who can't afford it, because it's such a luxury. And I know firsthand what it does for people, the transformation from the outside in. I've seen it so many times, and a lot of people just can't afford it. So now they can.
So it's so interesting. Yeah. So with the QR code, you would, as you're reading your book, you just go to the QR code, and what will they find when they get there? Like a questionnaire about them, like to help them guide themselves?
No, they're actually, so what happens is each story has its own theme, and the way that the book was written, it starts from the foundation wardrobe. So the first chapter is your foundation, which is my foundation, my life. And then once you finish the first chapter, then you scan the QR code and you get to meet me. And I break down the foundation classics, the things that you could wear 10 years ago and look stylish 10 years in the future and still look chic. Those are the investment pieces, the things that you need. And there's a download a PDF so you can go through your own wardrobe. But then I'm showing you how to wear them with all different ways, all different body types, and then links below on where to buy them.
Oh my God. Jen, can you
That's
move
amazing.
in with me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish
I'd like you to live with me. So what's the cost for that?
We're going to buy
the
book.
You can live with me because you can join the membership.
Yeah.
we're
That's
together. And
fascinating.
it's also very personal because the tutorials, I bring you into my life and my family and what my book is really all about. So it's a very interactive kind of a book. And I think it's really the first book out there like this. And I'm so excited to introduce it to the world. I just feel like I have definitely found my calling. And I think that, like spokes on a wheel, there are many different ways to get to your center and find your calling. And I know moms that are watching this are like, do I go back to work? What do I do? And who am I? And it doesn't happen overnight. For some people it does. Like my brother's a doctor. He knew from day one, I'm going to be a doctor.
Sure.
I had 25 jobs. It took me a long time to figure it out. And you
mentioned,
you can get there.
Sorry to cut you off. You mentioned
I talk
that.
A lot. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. You mentioned that in your book, you go through your history and loss and all these things. I know there's a lot of moms out there who have experienced loss, especially in the last 2 or 3 years, and might be feeling like, how on earth can I snap out of this? Could you share maybe one of your most difficult losses that you wrote about and how you overcame it to maybe inspire some of our moms to maybe do that?
Yes. My most difficult loss, I think, was, it wasn't, I don't want to say it was a loss. I think it was more, Dennis Prager talks about the missing tile syndrome, that one thing in your life that you tend to focus on that you're missing.
Yes.
And because my mom left when I was 6 months old and I grew up in abuse, I think for me, that hole of not having that mother-daughter bond was so big and shaped so much of who I am, the way I thought, the way I handled situations. I also blamed my biological mother for everything in my life. And it wasn't until I took a foreign exchange student in, and when you get the book, and I hope you do, that you'll read this, because I took her in on I was thinking that she was going to solve this problem and I was going to inherit this mother-daughter bond. And my expectations were self-centered and really unrealistic. And through my journey with her, I realized that my hole is not a hole to be filled, but a truth to be accepted. Yeah. And that was very cathartic and healing for me. I think just, growing up with abuse, alcoholism, a web of lies in my home, because we had to hide everything from my religious community and from my family, and just the way I grew up.
It's exhausting.
The purpose of the book is to teach people that trauma is not a final destination. It's just, it's part of my story. And, I feel pretty vulnerable putting it out there, but I'm doing it because I hope that I'm really going to inspire other people who have been through far worse than I have. Yeah. And, maybe a little less than I have, but our pain is the same. We are a common thread. We are all connected.
Yeah. It's interesting, the truthfulness that you mentioned, that knowing your reality. Truthfulness is the foundation. I mean, there's a Baha'i writing that says truthfulness is the foundation of all human virtues. And if you don't have a foundation, you have nothing. So it's so beautiful that you discovered that what is, and accepting that truth is the healing. That's phenomenal.
Yeah,
Sorry, go on.
No, one thing, Raha alluded to, is the fact that the last couple of years we've all suffered some loss of some sort through the whole COVID thing. And part of that is just coming back out into the world. And part of that, of course, is finding our style, or how are we going to present ourselves to the world now? And I have to be honest, for me personally, I was told recently, well, we're going to go to a business meeting. And I panicked. I was like, well, what do people wear to a business meeting these days? I mean, I'm not, especially with a Zoom call. So how do you, before they can purchase your book, which is in June, and that sounds amazing, and we'll all
run out. Pre-sales will go up sooner than that, so they can pre-order the book.
Well, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Beginning today. So what do you suggest how do they get started? How do you get that confidence? Where do we find things like, I know I bought books before, in fact, about style, and they're not very helpful in that the first thing they show you is 15 body types, and you're supposed to pick which one you are. Who
wants to do that?
That wasn't helpful to me. So help the moms out there say, okay, I am ready to go back into the workforce, or I'm ready to go back to the school meeting at school where I don't feel like a frump then when I walk in the door. I mean, where should they begin? What's the best way to get started?
Yes, I would say that the best way is to put on what you feel best in first, because if you want to lift your vibration, then you want to put something that makes you feel good. Don't go too far outside your box to begin with, and add color. Definitely add color. That's going to elevate your mood. Like I'm looking at the screen and my eye definitely goes to Megan's beautiful green, jacket. It's just, it lifts your vibration. So I would say add color in, even if it's a lip or a scarf or carrying a bag that's a color, something just to add a little bit of that energy into your life.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is, I do have downloads that can help. They're cheat sheets actually, and they're amazing. I wish I had these when, years ago. You identify your body type and there's not 15 of them. But once you do, there's the do's and the don'ts and verbiage on how to tell a salesperson what looks good on you, because we might not have the verbiage. You might go in and say, I'm looking for a dress. But if you walk in and you say, I'm looking for a shift dress, or I'm looking for a tulip dress, then they're going to understand, oh, okay, let me show you, where to look for that. So there's do's and don'ts for your body types. But I mean, the first thing to do is just, I have a motto, and my motto is, it is not a tattoo. You're going to wear it for like 12 hours. So, just take the risk, wear it, and see what people do, see how they respond to you.
Yeah.
And see how you feel at the end of the day.
Be like a scientist instead of taking everything personally and so difficult. I like that.
And how do you ferret?
Oh, yeah. She's like, it's clothes.
Yeah.
It can come off. Yeah.
I like that.
It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to,
That's
it's
so
supposed
good.
to,
That's true. Yeah.
it
That's
is supposed to
genius.
be fun. That's
Yeah.
why there's so many different designers and styles, and like that's what it's there for. It's to help shift your vibration. It's one tool out there.
That's so true.
That
We gotta
can
look at it
transform
that
you from
way.
the outside in.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Well, you're talking about going and seeing a salesperson who's you're trying things on. Like the other day, I tried something on, and the salesperson said it looked amazing. I don't think my husband thought it looked amazing, so he grabbed another customer and pulled her over and said, "What do you think about this?" And I said, "Well, what is she gonna say?"
That's interesting.
But you
Okay,
can trust
so
yourself. Like, how do you know? Like, okay, do they get commission, or do I really look great in this?
That is the best question.
Yeah,
because-
that is a great question. Okay, I have two answers to that. One is trust your instincts. If you think that she's not telling you honestly, take a few things in. And if you know something doesn't look good on you and she says it looks good on you, don't go back to that salesperson. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is there's two types of clothing. There's clothing for women, and then there's clothing for men. So for example, this jacket, I'll show you. It's so cute. This is a no for my husband. He doesn't like it. This is a luncheon girls thing. So there's two types of wardrobe. So I don't particularly depend on my husband. Maybe yours has great taste because he dressed you super cute today. But I don't particularly depend 100%, because fashion is, for most men, not all, but most men can't see beyond, what's sort of trending, and, it takes a while for them to catch on.
I think it's really important what you said about being comfortable and knowing your audience. So if you're going to go hang out with your girls, it's a totally different look to if you're going to a business meeting, to if you're going to the beach, and to trust, man.
Absolutely.
Talk about
there's my dad gave me my very first piece of wardrobe wisdom. It's actually, I call it wardrobe wisdom, my whole book. But when I was very young and I was going through depression and anxiety, and he came to me and said, you know what, Jen, your friends are like clothes in your closet. And you might not understand this today, but I promise you one day you will. You're going to have business clothes that make you feel powerful, and you're going to have sexy clothes for when you go out dating, and you're going to have trendy clothes that come and go, and you're going to have you're going to have staples that stay there 10 years or more. And you might have a favorite sweatshirt, maybe one or two, honey, that you put on. And every time you wear it, it brings you comfort and joy. And you're never going to get rid of those, but you need them all to make up your wardrobe.
Wow.
And he's so right. Yeah. Because it's a profound analogy. Because when I think about my friends, I have friends that metaphorically look good on me and some that don't. I have business clothes. I have wise friends that I can spend time with that are just, a little more traditional. And I have silly friends that, are just trending. And So it was a good piece of wardrobe wisdom. So there's,
Yeah.
a lot of different, genres to
like
pick
that.
from.
Now, for some of us, no, I didn't mean to say for us. The last couple of years, few people have eaten a lot more than they possibly, through the pandemic, maybe gotten through a few more bags of Oreos than maybe they should have, and a lot of the clothes don't fit anymore, and you don't feel good about how you're looking.
Yeah.
And I think the tendency is, and I'll be honest, okay, I'm talking about myself. I started to shop at places where I would wear things that would hide me, really. What do you suggest to the moms out there? Because I know that I'm not the only one, and I'm working on it, like the rest of us. What do you suggest? What's a good wardrobe strategy that make you feel really good about yourself, and that's where you are?
Right. Love the skin you're in. So the first thing is, and I've had I've had several clients who have gained weight, and then they keep these clothes in their wardrobe when they're very far from getting back to that weight, and thinking that it's going to be an inspiration for them. And it actually has the reverse effect. And it's depressing. And they go into their wardrobe and they try stuff on, and they just don't feel good about themselves. So my first recommendation is the things that are not fitting you right now, if you have space someplace else, or even get a box that says, when I lose 10 pounds, and just set it aside so that you have a completely different mental outlook when you go into your wardrobe. And then I would invest in just the basics, and some good outerwear, outerwear pieces. And again, adding a little bit of color, whether it's a handbag, because that doesn't matter what weight you are, a great pair of sunglasses, things that can sort of elevate your fashion that don't particularly translate into, where you are on the scale. Accessories are a great tool too, to just elevate your look as well. So monochromatic dressing is also another great way to camouflage those extra pounds that you've put on, head to toe. So it doesn't have to be black. I'm not a huge black fan. I know it's an easy go-to because it's slimming and it's easy, but it doesn't lift your vibration very much. So if you are going to wear black, maybe throw a colored scarf on over, or a colored blazer on top of that, and invest in accessory pieces, bags, and shoes.
It's interesting.
Things that will last you a while.
Everything you say has this theme of accepting what is.
Yeah.
And your wardrobe is the same. You're like, don't keep clothes that make you like, okay, I'm going to get there. Because then you're not here.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point, is to be, like Ram Dass says, be here now.
Yeah.
It's really hard. And I know that's easy to say. And my weight has gone up 10 pounds back and forth too. But I find for myself, for my clients, with my experience, that it is best to get those things out of your closet, so you stop focusing on that. And what happens is, as you start to wear clothes and you're feeling better about yourself, the weight starts to drop.
That's so
because
interesting.
you're feeling better about yourself.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, another fashion trick, and I talk about this in some of my tutorials when I get to body types, is we tend to wear things when we're not feeling our best that are oversized to hide our bodies.
Yeah, look.
Mm-hmm. And it actually doesn't work. And if you take a photograph of yourself with something fitted and layered, or if you can do it right and layer it, and I talk about that, and then you take a picture of what you think looks good oversized, you're going to look much heavier in the oversized.
Really?
Oh,
I'm going to try
Oh,
that.
yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. Men too. They do that too. They tend to wear things that are oversized to maybe hide their bellies, and, tailoring, and then wearing things that are more fitted on the shoulders can make you look more fit. I mean, there's a lot of fashion tricks. There's a chapter in my book called Olive Oil, because I was teased by my surrogate mother, and she used to call me Popeye's bony girlfriend, and I hated it. Olive oil. And it's about loving the skin you're in, and it sort of breaks down all of this for you.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's great. I can't wait to
When
read
you're
that.
when you're culling through your closet, and you're saying you get rid of those pieces that make you feel inferior at the moment.
Yeah.
But what about the piece? I know there's some pieces that I've kept just because I think I spent a lot of money on that. It's surely it will come back. Now, so Yeah. When do you just finally say, you know what? These pieces need to just move along, and we need to make space in our closet for
Yeah,
the
it's a
new
great
me.
question. It's a great question. So my answer to that is, if it has sentimental value, never ever get rid of it. There is an amazing story in my book that is incredible about a Holocaust survivor and my son, and one little act of kindness that changed the trajectory of so many lives. And that bracelet that was given to him and my son, he will never get rid of. I have things in my closet that have so much sentimental value to them, and I don't care if they're in or out of style. In fact, when I work in a wardrobe, I seem to have an eye, probably for when I was shopping with my grandmother in these vintage stores. I have an eye for a diamond in the rough or an old vintage piece. And I'll say, hey, are you wearing this? Well, no, it's not really in style. That to me is a no. It's always in style. And I think if you add it to, something that you're wearing, it has an energy to it on its own. So if it's sentimental, never get rid of it. If you haven't worn it in a year, you have to reevaluate why. Is it because it doesn't fit you properly? Do you love it? If you don't love it, or if you've never liked it, that has to go, because it's not going to grow on you. You need to try it on. Is the fit right for your body still? And if it's something that you're hanging on to because you think it's going to come back into style, unless it's a classic, like a true classic, and I break those down in the book, it will come back in style, but it always comes back in 15 to 20 year cycles. And when it comes back different. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It comes back different. The cuts, the fabrics are better now. The cuts are better. So unless it's a classic, if it's a true designer runway piece, that kind of thing, it has sentimental value. Or if it just makes you feel good, then you don't get rid of those.
That's great advice. Like that. Well, and we have people who want to hear more of your great advice, and that's our Zoomer moms. So come on in, Zoomer moms.
Hi, Zoomer moms.
Well, let me
Jen.
Introduce everyone to Jen. First, we have Leslie Harrell, who is the mom to a son and a daughter.
Hello.
We have Megan Thompson, who has 2 sons, and she is a blogger. She has a blog called Style Among Friends.
Love
Hi,
that.
Megan.
Hi.
Julie Orchid is the mother to 2 lovely daughters. And Jennifer Marsh, who has a son and a daughter. Welcome, Zoomer moms. Let's ask some questions of Jen. I'm sure you have a million questions. Megan, let's start with you. What's your question for Jen?
All right, Jen. On the blog that I write, Style Among Friends, our main demographic is 45 to 55-year-old women who at that stage of life are now parenting adult children and transitioning either back into the workforce or maybe into full-time volunteer gigs. And we try to support them with ideas of how to keep things fresh and style. But I'd love to know what advice you would give that demographic of women as they transition and like you used the word transformation into this next phase of their life as they build confidence to either go back to work after 20 years or, start something new in the volunteer world. What advice would you give for rebuilding a wardrobe, refreshing a wardrobe, or just like a daily uniform?
Well, I can certainly understand what it's like to have, my demographic is also that age as well. And I have kids. I'm an empty nester now. So I do have 2 kids. And I know that when I went back to work, I started with, the things that make me feel really good, the staples. I would allocate a certain amount of money, what you feel comfortable with, and then find, again, a good salesperson that you can relate to. And that doesn't happen. Maybe that doesn't happen the first time you go shopping. You might have to ask a few different people, try on a few things. And once you find somebody who is a professional who understands how to dress the body, they can direct you in the right place. But and then finding, what resonates for you in the workplace. Again, it took me a very long time to get there, but I really do believe that when you combine your passion with service, then you have found your calling. I do believe that. And so, Yeah, I mean, I love to hear that women are doing work and service work. I think it's great. And also to just relax a little bit about it, not put so much pressure on ourselves. I hear this all the time from friends of mine who aren't working yet. And they're like, my kids are going to graduate and what am I going to do? And, for me, I did what God gave me, the gift that I've been given. And that could be anything for anybody, from being a great listener to service work to any talent, photography, whatever that is. And I combined that with service with my nonprofit. And that's how I just kind of grew.
That's great. Leslie, do you have a question for Jen?
I did have one question. To explain to me the definition when you say vibration. You've talked a lot about the vibration of something, and I kind of get it, but at the same time, kind of defining what it means to you is one question. And then, I'm someone who works from home, so it's a little trickier. It's hard to remotivate to get like dressed up to go somewhere, because so many times, like, I get up, I go walk my dog, I come home, I sit down at my computer and I work for the day. So, I don't really have a lot of motivation a lot of times, but then you go, oh my gosh, then you decide you're going to go somewhere and don't have clothes, or, it's just kind of hard to kind of, when you're not kind of in this dress up mode or in a professional mode or in a social mode, when you work from home, I think that's tricky too. So the question is the vibration thing. And then that.
Yeah, it's a great question, by the way. And I love the blue that you're wearing today. It's vibrant. Metaphor, we are vibrational beings having a human experience, number one. So I feel like we are vibrational. So our moods shift depending on, who we're around. If you ever experience where you are around somebody and all of a sudden it's like, ooh, I don't like that energy, or, ooh, I love this energy. This person lifts me up. That's vibration. And colors radiate at a different frequency. So for example, red vibrates at one of the highest frequencies. And they've done studies on this with men, and if what men are attracted to. And they showed two women, with one wearing, with a background, just the background of red, wearing the same thing, and another woman equally, aesthetically pleasing. And the men, like 70% picked the red vibration. That's why, what's his name? Chris DeBow wrote a song, Lady in Red. He knew that, which was a top hitting song for, I don't know how long, but a long time. So colors in themselves radiate at different frequencies. And so adding color in can just lift your energy or vibration. So for being at home, I would say, and I understand, because during COVID too, I got myself in a rut too, and I wasn't getting ready. And then I'd go to the store and I'd catch a glimpse of myself and be like, I don't feel good. Like, I just don't feel good. So,
yeah, I need the ponytail on top of the head, the clip on top of the head far too much.
Yeah, I understand. I would say, try to just, if you're not happy and you want to lift your vibration just a bit, I would just say, once a week, maybe, peruse your closet, pick out an outfit, see how you feel at the end of the day, and just start there, just once a week.
That's great.
No, it doesn't have to be every day, but you will feel better. You will feel better. You'll look at yourself and you'll just feel better.
Yeah, that's great.
Awesome.
Jennifer, do you have a question for Jen?
Oh, I can't hear her.
Oh, Jen is muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I have so many questions, because as a mom, you not only dress yourself, you dress your children, and sometimes also your husband, right?
Oh,
so I have a husband who is not a slave to fashion, and we had to kind of put together Garanimals kind of wardrobe for him. Really,
what does that mean?
What he wore with what, it all sort of worked. Anyway, so, and then I have a son, we live in Austin, Texas. It's a pretty casual town. And, they just wear like dry fit athletics all day, every day, shorts, no matter what weather. And they have this huge tendency not to want to get dressed up. And, it's enough of a struggle just to get my son in clothes that fit him. Like, every time he puts on pants, I'm like, they're way too short. And so, like, I feel like I'm always scrambling, trying to keep clothes on everyone, just like the basics. So sometimes it's really hard to like go the next level and do things that are actually like lift your vibration, lift your mood, that you feel good in. You're just trying to get out of the house clothed. Like, what's your advice for, the busy mom who, maybe used to be into fashion and really likes fashion, but just struggles to find the time?
You mean for you or for your sons and your husband?
Well, like for the whole project. The whole project is yours, right?
First of all, I love that you said Garanimals, because I think his name was Seymour Lichtenstein, and he was a genius for developing this concept to give children autonomy. Okay, so I struggle with that too, because my husband is coming to me always, at the last minute, does this look good? And can you pick out the wardrobe? It's a lot to tackle. It really is. I don't have, to be honest with you, a real answer for that. I would start with yourself first, because if you feel good and you have 10 go-to outfits that you don't have to think about, that'll save up a little bit of energy for you to put towards your, your husband and your son. Is your son still growing?
I think so, yes. I mean, so he's 16, so he was in that stage where all of a sudden, like, and it's tricky. Like, why are there no size 7 men's shoes? Like, that was a weird.
I know.
And then why they don't make size 28 waist, 34 length pants, but that's what he was for a while. So it was just like, it wasn't like, let's just run out and get some clothes. It was like, nothing fits you, so I'm having to special order. And then like, you just run out of energy for yourself. You're just like, I'm going to put on that outfit from 20 years ago that I felt good in, that kind of sort of still fits.
Yeah. Again, I think I would concentrate on you first, get yourself, where you feel good. And then as far as your son, tailoring is really critical. Letting things out for length or shortening things. Tailoring is like key. More than fashion. A whole section on tailoring. That's really important. But I would get him situated, and then your husband. I would find either a personal stylist or a salesperson, or in my book I have a list for the men as well, the basic must-haves. Men, it's a little easier with men. It really is, because once they have their basics down, it doesn't really change all that much, and it doesn't go out of style all that much, as long as it fits them really well. And they can interchange everything. So get yourself situated. You can download my PDF with the list, and then find, again, a good salesperson, and just give yourself a little break. And, give yourself a break, and just a little bit at a time. Just a little bit at a time.
That's great. Julie, do you have a question for Jen?
I have so many questions for Jen. But Jen, I am in an all-girl household. So this is a constant fashion and trying to figure out what makes us feel good. But really, I want to speak to your charity. And you really hit some hot buttons, because my situation with my oldest daughter is she had the opportunity to do an amazing photo shoot for her senior year, but she cried the night before because she didn't feel it and didn't feel beautiful. But we worked it out. It turned out amazing. So I want to know the comment that has touched you, has made you light up when you have done this charity, because it's amazing that you would take and pick a person that has had trauma or a chronic illness, and you make them feel beautiful, and they get a book and they're able to take that with them for the rest of their life. What's the one comment that has stuck with you?
Wow, Julie, thank you so much. If you guys all don't know, I have a nonprofit called the Phoenix Effect, because the story of the Phoenix rising out of the ashes. And I feel like we are all a part of the Phoenix journey, whether we help somebody rise out of the ashes or we have to dive in ourselves. And we dive in all our lives in a lot of different ways. When I started working with my clientele, and I saw this shift in vibration and energy, whether it's a celebrity or a stay-at-home mom, there's always I realized that I have to give this gift away. And so I started doing nonprofit photo shoot experiences for people that suffer from life debilitating diseases and trauma. And what I realized during this process is, when you go through trauma, and I have in a different way, but when you go through trauma, there's parts of your identity that get lost during this process of trying to heal, and then reemerging into the material world is really difficult, because it's like, you just want to be, you're alive. It's like, I don't want to think about materialism. Like, I just want to be my core self, but there is a place in transformation for that. And so I help bridge that gap. And so these phoenixes, I call them phoenixes, are sort of birthed anew into this new version of themselves, and fashion. And it's a really, really beautiful experience. I believe it's my soul calling and why I'm here. And I just think, again, like I said, when you combine your passion with service work, I think you found your purpose. And so the Phoenix effect has really touched my life and the lives of many. But the thing that's even more powerful is what it does to the families. I've lost Phoenixes along the way, many of them. Yeah. The hardest thing to do. And they're left with all of these beautiful photos of their child or loved one, feeling back in their best self for that day. I mean, so it's, it adds not only to my life, but to theirs, and then their families' lives as well. But thank you for asking me about that.
Yes. It's important.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That is a great organization, and the fact that you're doing that is amazing. And there's so many organizations and things going on like that about fashion. For example, I know that there are some for women who are trying to go back to work and who can't afford a new wardrobe, and we make contributions for organizations that help clothe them so they can go out and get a job interview or do things. So that it's just amazing things you can do with fashion. Well, before we wrap up here, just really quick, for our moms out there when they're out there shopping today, if you could pick 3 staple pieces to suggest, hey, you really need to get this. You need to, at any price point, this is what you need to buy. What would they be? What would you suggest to get started?
I would say, I wish I had it right here, but I don't. I would say a classic structured bag, shape wise, like an Hermes, but never that price point. I have several that I've gotten at TJ Maxx that fill that void. So I would say a good staple bag, but in a classic shape. I would say a good leather jacket that's buttery and soft. I see you're wearing your leather jacket. And then I would say probably a something colorful to lift your vibration, whether that's a blazer like Megan's wearing or something like that, or maybe a good pair of sunglasses or glasses, because that's the first thing people are going to notice, and it's on your face. Yeah. It's on your face. And so it's like, I call it jewelry for the face.
Yes.
So, it's really important. So I would say if you're going to pick 3 things, those would probably be the 3.
Okay. Well, that's great. Well, thank you, Zoomers, for your input today. This has been terrific. And we could just go on. We could talk all day long about this for sure.
And by the way, you can follow me on Instagram at Jen Principe Styles, and all of this stuff, gets posted periodically. So
great. Okay, great. Absolutely do that. And absolutely pick up a copy of A Common Thread, A Fashion for the Soul book. I know that I am definitely going to be purchasing that, and I know other moms out there will as well. Well, thanks so much for joining us today. Be sure and check us out on Instagram at Inside the Moms Club, or we have a website, InsideTheMomsClub.com. You don't want to miss that. And I just can't believe it, Raha. Just time flies here on the Moms Club.
I know. I look at the clock. I'm like, what?
I know. It's hard to believe. Well, we'll be back next time with celebrities and extraordinary moms just like you. And we know your me time is precious and valuable. Thank you so much, moms out there, for sharing it with us. And remember our Moms Club motto: if you don't laugh sometimes, what happens, Raha? Exactly. There you go. You're going to cry is what you're going to do. So keep on laughing, moms. We'll see you next time on Inside the Moms Club.
Bye.